Welcome to Voice Rising with Johnstad. Enjoy weekly conversations with leading luminaries, pioneering visionaries, singers, poets, musicians, and sound healers as we explore the profound role our voice plays on the path to self-realization and global enlightenment. The internationally acclaimed singer, composer, author, healer, recording artist, voice expert, creator of Voice Your Essence, and founder of the School of Voice, Johnstad uses her extraordinary spiritual gifts to empower others. Everything in this world vibrates. Everything has a frequency. A pioneer in the field of voice work and transformational songwriting. Her breakthrough methods are helping thousands of people worldwide fine-tune their body-mind-spirit system and unlock the energetic frequencies of limitless creativity, health, and abundance. Share your voice, ask your questions, join in the conversation. Receive life-changing, positive transformation and rise together to create a sound world. And here's your host, Johnstad.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show, and a great show we have for you today. With me in studio is Jennifer Hamady. Jennifer is a voice coach, a board-certified therapist specializing in technical and emotional issues that interfere with self-expression. And Jennifer, she herself began her career singing and recording with artists including Stevie Wonder, Christina Aguilera, Patti LaBelle, Def Leppard, as well as performing as a lead singer with Cirque du Soleil and as a backup vocalist on American Idol. She is a best-selling author, and her books, The Art of Singing, Discovering and Developing Your True Voice, The Art of Singing Onstage and in Studio, and Learning to Sing, continue to find resonance with a very large audience of voice lovers. Jennifer, welcome to the show. It's so good to have you with me today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
That's great, huh? So let's start in an easy place, Jennifer. I've been doing some exploring, and you are a singer. You're very connected to your voice. Did singing always come naturally to you as a child? Did you feel very at home with singing?
I did, since I was, I think, truthfully, before I can remember, and I say that because my parents tell me that I would never stop singing, it just was a very safe place, something that was always very comfortable. It felt like a home, and it has been that way ever since, save for a period during college where I started to try to intellectualize my understanding of technique and singing, which created some challenges. But then once I unlearned those and got back to where my home was, I was back on track.
Well, that's what I actually read, and I found that so fascinating because there was a moment in my life, too, as a singing student. I was one of those people that would walk and breathe and sing at the same time. And then I was, learning. I was actually studying classical voice and developed a lot of tensions and almost lost my voice. And I did read that you lost your voice. So what was the turning point? What was the obstacle that you faced basically in that moment? And what was the turning point for you that brought you back to your own open, very natural, free voice? What was that for you? How was that process?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting. First of all, I'm sorry that you had a similar experience. I have, it's unfortunate, but the majority of people I know that have trained classically in universities and conservatories, many of them have had experiences like ours. And that is, of course, isn't to say that classical teaching is bad or that conservatories are not, overarchingly good. But it does seem that when a certain type of instruction occurs that, as I mentioned, engages the intellect or really asks people to step out of their true knowing of themselves and their voices and the trust of both, the problems arise. So to answer your question specifically, for me, the turning point, I think about 2.5 years in, with studying with this one, this terrific singer, maybe not a great teacher for me, this classical singer, I said, I just can't do this anymore. And I opted to go with a different teacher in the music program who was just known for being pure love. And I didn't at that point care, Cara, whether or not I learned anything. I just wanted to be in a emotionally healthy environment. And she just, the turning point literally was she with no fear and no power struggle and no drama said, let's just get rid of all the things you've painted on top of a voice that always worked. And we just played. And so technically that was the turning point, and emotionally it was a turning point, and I'm forever grateful to her. She sadly has passed on, but she's very much with me, and I'm forever indebted to her kindness and her wisdom and her grace, and I do my darndest to carry that spirit forward with the singers with whom I work.
Well, that is probably what makes you a very good vocal coach, because you know what it feels like not only to perform in small clubs and big arenas, or to be vulnerable, to show up, but also because you went, or at least I know this from my own experience, we're much more sensitive to make sure that the tension is not there, to make sure that the place is safe and loving and caring. I mean, to make sure that the client is really, that we're much more maybe attentive and aware than somebody who never went through that. Does it make you a better coach?
I agree. Of course I can't know for sure, because this is the only path that I actually walked down.
That's true. That's true.
But but I will say that, before I had gone to university, when people would say to me, how do you sing that way? Or it seems so easy. The only answer I had was, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it to you, because I don't necessarily understand it myself. So you're absolutely right that having gone through what at the time seemed like a tremendously unfortunate experience did turn out to be a gift that is the gift that helped me to become what I hope to be, which is a sensitive and good coach. Because while I don't necessarily know what's going on in your body when you sing, or anyone's specific experience, I know what tension feels like. It's vocal, psychological. I know what that frustration feels like, so I can empathize and help journey with singers back toward freedom in a way, to your point, that I don't think I could have had I not ever experienced it.
Yeah, exactly. So you've worked as a singer, and so you also know what it's like to be on stage. And you've also worked with a lot of great artists who also have to, work every day with showing up and being vulnerable and strong and being resilient and being just simple human beings. What is, and being on tour and all that entails, I'm sure, with, staying hydrated and staying fit and getting enough sleep. And our instrument, I think for a lot of people, they don't realize that the vocal folds are tiny, because they hear these big voices. They hear such big voices and see such big personalities. The vocal folds are very, very tiny and vibrate thousands of times, not thousands, I guess, 440 at A or whatever. I mean, hundreds of times, thousands if you're up at high C or whatever per second, while expressing and doing the words. For you as a singer and a performer, was it easier for you to sing with close friends or in an intimate place that was smaller? Or was it easier for you to sing in a big arena where the lights were shining and you actually couldn't see anybody, and that made it easier? There seems to be two types of singers, and some of them, they really, with people that they love dearly, they have more problems than singing for 10,000 people.
Yeah. Well, I hope I don't over answer your question here. It's a really great question. So one part of my answer is, I was always comfortable singing in any environment as long as I'd done it once before. So, for example, I remember when I first joined the tour of Delirium with Cirque du Soleil, the first couple days being in those arenas, I thought, oh my God, all the things we think, like that, the voice in our head, the voice in my head was just going crazy. But after a week or so, I got used to it, and it was great. And I remember we had a break, and I flew to Atlanta to do a private gig. I think, Cara, it was like 100 people in candlelit room, and I thought on the plane, like, well, no problem, I've been in arenas, and I got there and I was like, oh my gosh. So for me, I
so
think
close.
For me, I think it's the newness of the experience. Family and friends has never been a problem, but I think I just want so much to make a difference and to do a great job that always initially kind of gets to me. But I will say, if we have an extra couple minutes to answer this question of yours,
of course.
I remember, and I don't know if a lot of other singers have this, but when I was younger, I never felt anxiety when I sang. I was one of those rare people, I think, that would get up on stage, and I felt really free. And something happened, and I don't, I thought about it. I probably overthought about it, and I never came up with an answer. I think it was in my mid-20s where I realized, standing on the stage, oh my gosh, I could make a mistake. Whereas before it had never occurred to me that I could make a really profound mistake. And at that moment, kind of the veil came off, and that was the first time I ever felt anxiety, where I realized I could open my mouth and not just sing something wrong, but I could open my mouth and swear. I could do anything. I recognized the power of being a performer, and and holding the audience, captivating an audience, and it terrified me. And so that's always been there a little bit, but I choose to see that as more of an awesome power that any of us hold when we are in front of a group of people who are longing to hear what we have to offer. So choosing to see it that way, to really focus on the gift that I long to give rather than the mistakes I could make, has been helpful.
Yeah, and I think deep down that when we get connected again with our full, free voice, and if we're lucky enough to have that come naturally, or if we have a good coach, there's something that happens that we remember that place of power and creativity, because we were each and every one of us were dancing and being the center of attention, whether we were alone in our room making up our stories and playing with the dolls and the building blocks or whatever, or if we were in the middle of a party, we didn't care at all. And that's for me what's so fascinating. I think we're in a moment where we've lost in many ways so much naturalness through all the competitions and through all the shows. And one thing that's good about big shows is that people are sitting around the TV and really getting excited for young singers to excel and do well. But what is so difficult is the competition and not the connectivity, right? So I think I don't know where it happens, because I always say, to my students, I say, look, if we all started to crawl and run and walk, which we all do, and then suddenly we couldn't do that, we would be like, what is wrong with our development? But we all actually are singers. We're born singers. Each and every one of us as a human being, we are all singers. We sing before we can speak. And I'm always curious to know what happens that so many people, I think over 70%, will say, I can't sing, or I don't feel comfortable singing in front. They even feel shy to sing happy birthday to their husband or wife, right? And you're coming from after you're still working as a singer. I don't want to say afterwards, but you started to explore the psychology of voice. And as far as I understand from your studies, you went on, to performer and coach and everything, and then you got deeper and deeper into trying to understand also all of these many facets of our voice. And what is your take on that? Like, why do we all start out as singers and suddenly you have 70, 80% terrified to stand on stage and sing?
Well, you're hitting, as you know from your experience also as a singer and a teacher, one of the most fundamental issues that we all come up against. My take on it in a nutshell is, I think there are a couple of things that converge to create this problem, for lack of a better word. One, I think, is the significance that we have consciously and culturally added to singing. For example, to your point about development, we all walk, but no one thinks to themselves, I'm a phenomenal walker. No one thinks I'm a valid, worthy human being because I walk well. I mean, maybe runway models, but not the rest of us. It's just, we walk, we brush our teeth, we sit down, we stand up. These are things, automated physiological things that we don't give much attention to because we haven't added any meaning or significance to them. Whereas singing, we have added significance culturally, and to your point, you mentioned some of these shows like American Idol and The Voice, where we have turned our attention to these activities and we have deemed them more important, and we've placed value on them and on the people who do it well. So I don't think it's anything inherently involved with the act of singing. I think it's something we've bestowed upon singing. But I think there's a second part too, and that is, as you know, the voice is in our bodies. If I'm a pianist, I might be riddled with anxiety or heartbroken over a breakup or a loss or ecstatic about some wonderful thing in my life. And that might affect my playing a bit, but it's not going to affect me the same way as if my instrument, those tiny vocal cords you're talking about, are in my body. So when we go to sing, in addition to the meaning we've added, there's just the physiological response that occurs when we go to share ourselves in a world where it's not natural any longer to be completely vulnerable and completely available to other human beings and to ourselves. And so anxiety rises, which physiologically manifests as tension. And then we have this very uncomfortable experience. We open our mouths to sing, and a sound that's not great comes out, and we think, oh, I'm not a great singer, rather than recognize, no, I'm just not comfortable being truly present with another person, and therefore giving my voice a chance to show me and the world what it can do.
Yeah. Let's take a short break here, and then we'll be back with Jennifer Hamady and talk more about the beauty of voice and the transformational power of voice.
The cutting edge of conscious radio, OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Connect at OMTimes.com. OMTimes, creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hi, this is David Strickle. I'm excited to share my brand new show, The Stream of David Live, right here on OMTimes Radio. Each week I'll have exciting guests, and I'll channel the eternal wisdom of the stream, a group of non-physical entities whose teachings have transformed lives all over the world. So join us for an uplifting hour each Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern. That's The Stream of David Live right here on OMTimes Radio.
With happy clients all over the world, Cara Johnstad knows that your voice is the missing link to more authenticity, abundance, creativity, and health. An internationally acclaimed voice expert, Cara's breakthrough methods have helped thousands of people successfully heal their voice wounds and extinguish the story of self-doubt and shyness forever. Join in group trainings, attend online sessions, schedule one-on-one time, and invite Cara to work with your organization and community. Get started today. Go to www.carajohnstad.com and receive a special guided meditation designed to fine-tune your inner voice and welcome you on the voice journey.
A social distancing tip.
Putting distance between yourself and others is critical to slowing the spread of coronavirus. So here are ways to stay in contact without the physical contact part. Call, send a text, set up a video conference, post on social media, dedicate a song on the radio. If you have symptoms of fever, dry cough, and shortness of breath, call your healthcare provider before going to their office. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part, because we're all #AloneTogether. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Hi, welcome back to Voice Rising. I am Cara Johnstad, and with me in studio today is Jennifer Hamady, founder of Finding Your Voice. And actually, Jennifer, I was thinking in the break, I was flying into the show today, but I was thinking I'm in Europe and I say Hamady, and suddenly I thought maybe you say Hamady or something else. So could you share with us how you say your beautiful name?
Well, they're both right. You know, here in the States, most people say Hamady, but the name is of Lebanese origin, and so they would say Hamady or Hamady. So it's beautiful. And you say it so musically too, so it's lovely.
Okay, I'm sorry. I
love it.
Yeah, I didn't want to do that incorrectly. So she is founder of Finding Your Voice, and this is also a fascinating question for me because you will know very well that all of these different aspects of our voice, and the way I see the voice, it's like an open channel. It connects us to ourselves and it connects us to the world. And we have all these different layers. So we have the inner voice work, we have the spoken word, of course, we have our writing voice, we have, our power of intent, belief systems, we have the singing voice. And besides being a singer and a vocal coach, of course, you're one of these rare beings that, because your voice is open, you have these extensions that naturally flow. And one of them is you are also a writer. Many people don't see this as voice work. I do. I see this as much as being a singer. You're an author. And you've written these 3 wonderful books, The Art of Singing, The Art of Singing Onstage, and in studio. And the last one's called Learning to Sing. And I was wondering what it's like for you, the difference between leading with your voice as a teacher or a speaker in keynotes or leading a group, the difference between working with your voice as a singer, and the difference, maybe between your inner voice work as an intuitive person, and what does it feel like when you are listening to your voice and bringing it out into your writing, into your books? What is distinct about these different voice? I mean, it's one voice, right? But feelings.
I don't know that I've ever actually thought about that actively or consciously, but my initial reaction is that the experience, I think, is similar in the sense that I'm always writing for someone, singing to someone, communicating with someone. It always feels that way to me. And it's always I don't want to say always, but usually just love is present for me. So when I'm working on the books, began as a process of wanting so much to answer these questions that I would get similar questions over and over again. And just with so much love, I wanted to share what I had learned and continuing to learn to help mitigate the frustration and the fear that came for so many singers to not be able to use their instruments effectively and easily. So the same thing with if I do keynotes or workshops. I think I just feel a sense of wanting to be present and answer the questions that are being literally asked in real time or that have been asked, to just be of service.
Beautiful. Which is a little bit the idea of this open channel, right? To allow it to flow through us and to give back. In some ways we receive, right? I mean, singers, we're also receiving. We're receiving breath, and we're receiving inspiration, and then we're giving it back to our world. You help your clients get to the heart of many different issues and resolve maybe physical blocks or physical imbalances, emotional, also maybe professional, what they want to do with artist development. A lot of times singers, if they're not sure of which path to take or which producer to work with, it can also be very stressful for them because they might be going into contract situations where they don't feel free and they're trying to keep their instrument free, and yet they're in a situation where they might not feel free. So you work with a lot of your clients on not only how does the voice work, but also when these other things come into the room that are psychological or emotional. And one of the things that I read that you work with is a lot is self-esteem and confidence. And we know that the word confidence comes from to confide in someone. Do you think that we gain more confidence if we feel in a safe place, that we can really be heard? That's one of the key issues, that when we don't feel like we're being listened to or really heard, that our self-esteem kind of dwindles to an ember. Or how do you help people feel more connected and confident and present?
Well, I think that there are generally two distinct views on confidence that I can discern. And the first you've mentioned, which is, and it's true, I think, experientially. If you're in a room with someone who's not treating you well or not listening to you, of course, there's an impact. There's the experience of not being heard. And then, of course, we make that mean something. We add that to, a body of experiences and translate that into to reinforce whatever message, we've probably been carrying with us for a lifetime. I personally and professionally with others subscribe to the notion that confidence really is best an intrinsic entity rather than an extrinsic one, meaning that, confidence, and of course we'd have to look at the nature of confidence, right? So confidence, if you are content in who you are, separate of what you do, if you're comfortable in your own skin and in your being present, being available, being a contribution, then no matter the result, no matter the sounds that come out of your mouth, no matter the contract negotiation that doesn't work, if you've got that confidence right, that self-knowing, intrinsic confidence right, you might be shaken, but you're not going to be set off course. Whereas if you look for confidence, I believe, as the result of positive feedback, whether from, intimate relationships or professional relationships, I think you're asking for trouble if you look for it there, because you can't, everyone, no matter how talented you are, no matter your line of work, no matter what you do or don't do in the world, 100% of the people are not going to like you or like what you do 100% of the time. So if you're looking to shore up your confidence from others, I think it's you're in for a rocky ride.
Yeah, I agree. Exactly. So talk about that also belongs to the business, but it also belongs just to life. While we're at it, talk about rejection and resilience.
Well, too, Cara, you brought up business, which I think is so important. And if I can briefly just touch upon that, I work, as you mentioned, with a lot of singers who spend a lot of time thinking about the singing, but not a lot of time thinking about the business. And as we know, it's the music business. They both have an equal place in that phrase. There's music and then there's the business. So in my latest book, which is The Art of Singing on Stage and in the Studio, I spend an entire third of the book talking about relationships and how key they are. Because as you know, I'm sure from your own work, it's not just how talented you are, it's how easy and wonderful you are to work with. It's how coachable you are. So I can't say enough that I think that part of vocal development, as much as it is personal development, is relational development, and our ability to be coachable, to be present, to not be reactive, to listen, twice as much as we speak, and the like. But you had said, forgive me, the confidence and what did you ask me, Cara? I apologize before I went on the business tangent.
Said, no, I was talking about to connect rejection and resilience, because I think, a lot of people, we need the resilience, right, to, I mean, and these are things that are not only about the music business. I think that we carry our voice with us 24/7, and a big, full, sensitive, connected voice, whether we're an architect or whether we're an author or whether we're a performer, is leading us and guiding us and connecting us. So this idea of rejection or resilience, is not just for singers with major labels. I mean, it's for anybody out there. And but I do think that when we show up and we're very present and we do have that confidence in ourselves, and yet we are dealing with maybe also rejection letter after rejection letter or call. How do we come back to that resilient place? And does it affect our instrument? I mean, I think that's what's so fascinating. If you know how tiny this little instrument is inside of our throat, that we go into these really vulnerable, shaky situations, and yet the voice is stable for us in 99% of the time. It's pretty phenomenal. I mean, it's such an incredible thing, being, friend, guide,
Absolutely. I love how you're talking about how tiny the instrument is, and a bird just flew by the window, and I was thinking, they are so tiny, and their voice is so loud and powerful. And even though we have these two tiny flaps of skin that make up our voice, ours too, when you consider the instrument, the vocal folds in conjunction with the whole body and being and breath and musculature, is actually very wonderfully large and enormous. So you're right. It's amazing how such a small entity can translate into such a large expression. But to your question about resilience and rejection, for me, I think it's really a matter of expectation. For example, I think if we as singers, I'm generalizing, of course, said to ourselves, I'm going to get out of school or, whatever, I'm going to prepare to be a singer, and I know that I'm making this up, of course, but I know it's going to take 10 years of being constantly rejected, and I know I'm going to have to work a day job for 10 years, and then maybe I'll make it. But I love singing so much, I'm going to embrace that scenario and really live into it. I think if people believed that, they wouldn't grapple so much with rejection because they would have expected it. They would have maybe looked at it as, this is just par for the course. This is part of the journey. But I think people, whether they've made it conscious or not, think that if I'm talented and determined, I should not get rejected. I should make it. I should be able to do it as a living. I should be able to pay my bills doing it. And I'm sure you know that anytime we hear the word should, a red flag goes up, right? Yeah, because it signals that there's an expectation there that's not tethered to any reality. There's no should, So one thing I suggest in my writing and when I work with singers or speakers is that they manage their expectations, which sometimes can be met with resistance because I think oftentimes we think, she's suggesting a plan B or that I don't dream big. But I think that's not true at all. I think you can work as hard as you would have anyhow and just imagine that the journey might take longer and be harder than you would like it to be. And that relaxation into the climb, the even harder path, will empower you even more greatly to endure what for most people is a long, hard slog.
Mm-hmm. I remember a teacher once told me something really profound, and I think I'm still working on it. She said, Cara, we don't know. She said it's a mystery. You don't know why you landed in Berlin or Wisconsin or New York. You don't know. And that's what I've discovered is that, what you're saying is so true. When we can deeply relax, What we need to do is just do the work and be dedicated because we're artists, because we love what we're doing. And we don't know, because I've heard the craziest stories. I've heard people being discovered young. I remember the singer. I saw her the first time, and I don't know if you know her, Alberta Hunter. I saw her in New York. I think she was 65 or 68. And then I saw her do her comeback with 74 in a little cotton dress with a jazz trio for 2,000 people. And she was so present and so beautiful. And she inspired me my whole life to say, wow, if she's 74 and can be rocking it, then and she had taken, she had to take a very, very big break. So she hadn't been singing for 34 years. She'd been a nurse in New York City. And a very, very beautiful story. So I want to quote something that you wrote. May I quote you? May I quote
Sure.
you? I will quote you correctly. The question is, why do we sing? And then this is from an article that you wrote on this topic. And then you write, in the stillness when my voice and I share a moment, it's the joy rather than the knowledge that leads me on. It's a mystery of this wild, wonderful gift, the why of it all that brings tears to my eyes and makes me remember what the journey of singing and of living is all about. And so share with us a little bit, not only your own journey, the sensation, but what I hear is this connection to the mystery, and that all living beings and things have a voice, from the bird to the ocean, to the people, to the dog, to the cat, to the rustling leaves and the trees, right? Why do we sing, Jennifer? Why do we sing?
Well, I think if you want to look historically why we sing, before we had language, we used our voices in a much more powerful way. We had to, through, percussion and melody, and we used our voices more. And once the acquisition of language came along, we didn't need to have such great distinctions in melody. And so I think that singing allows us not only joyfully to use the fullness of our breath and body and the resonating of the voice inside of us, but it also taps into something anthropologically in each of us that longs to be much more, for lack of a better word, animalistic, much more alive, much more a part of who we are by design, the creatures we are by design. I know for me, for example, bringing it from history to the present moment in my own experience, now as a mom and, as you mentioned, a writer and a coach, and I do many things other than sing, but I usually sing every day. But I've noticed that when a few days go by and I haven't sung, even without thinking, have I sung in the last couple of days? I feel a little different. I feel a little off. And then when I sing, and it doesn't have to be loud, it's just connected. When I sing in a way that's connected to my breath and my body, I feel more alive. I just feel like I've opened a portal. You mentioned this open channel, and I love that imagery. But I feel like a portal has been opened to, call it what you'd like, my higher self, beyond the intellect and ego and pride, to the universe, to the knowing, to what matters, to all living things. And I feel a part of something so much grander and larger than myself. And that's something that singing and walking in nature, but particularly singing, really has always given me. It's always been a part of my experience.
Beautiful. We're going to take a break and be back with Jennifer Hamady and talk more about the beauty and the power of our voice.
bringing a more conscious lifestyle to your world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
Imagine being fired because of who you love. Imagine being denied medical treatment because of who you marry. Imagine being evicted because of who you are. Millions of Americans don't have to imagine this. They have to live it. Because in 31 states, it's legal to discriminate against LGBT people. Get the facts at beyondido.org. Brought to you by the Gill Foundation and the Ad Council.
This is Cara Johnstad. You are at Voice Rising, and with me in studio today is Jennifer Hamady. She is the founder of Finding Your Voice. She is a singer. She is a vocal coach. She is a best-selling author, and she is much more than I even can say in one sentence. And we're talking about a voice, and we're talking about, we just left off with what it feels like when we are connected with our voice and how we feel more connected and more uplifted. This is what I know from my own experience also as a voice coach. Everybody normally goes out happier and more connected. And yeah, it just seems like that's something we should do. Jennifer, we are. I mean, this is a question for you, and it's a question that's really on my mind. As you know, we are in the middle of a global pandemic with a lot of anxiety and a lot of health questions. And as artists and singers, we have actually a lot of experience dealing with, with all of these things, you know, dealing with fears, dealing with deep breathing, dealing with staying healthy. Our body is our instrument. And also dealing with understanding how important words are, how important it is to be in a good environment. And I keep on saying to myself, I wish that more people would know that, for example, if they sang, they might feel calmer, they might feel more vibrant, they might be able to alleviate some of the fears, especially if we started to sing more in communities. What are your thoughts on that? What role does our voice play, not only in giving each other uplifting words, words of kindness, words of strength, but also in feeding our energetic, emotional, psychological, physical bodies with nurturing self-love?
Well, I agree completely with everything you said. Taking a little bit of liberty with the term voice to mean more than just the actual vocal instrument, I really do think that of the full use of our self-expression in conjunction with doing that expression in community, that those two pieces are key to vibrant and vital health. You know, I know people, I love to dance. I know many dancers who don't sing, but they feel just as self-expressed as you or I and others might by using their singing voices. They're breathing as deeply as we do. They're moving their bodies fully, so they are fully physically expressed. And similarly, people who, really love yoga or really love to run. So for me, I think of specifically pertaining to health, the full use of the physical body in conjunction with quieting the mind, and often whether we're singing or dancing or running or being with people we love, whatever it takes to get us present and get those endorphins going is key. And I think also, even before this physical distancing was put into place, I think people, even when they're around others these days, tend to be lonely. I think we're not as connected as we need. I shouldn't say need. We're not as connected that I believe we were designed to be. I think that we spend a lot of time in our heads thinking about what other people think, thinking about life instead of living life and living in relationship and living in community. So I think that those two pieces for me are vastly important to health. And I know that we live in a medicalized world where we take pills for things that don't seem to be working, rather than taking a look, as you're suggesting, to what, like singing, like deep self-expression, deep breathing, deep connectedness, rather than looking at those things to provide and strengthen our well-being.
Yeah, right. I mean, I just think that it's very interesting, that, or I would welcome and invite more people to start whistling on the street or singing, because I think it would remind us that we can be empowered also to actively, through tone, through sound, through movement, through dance, through food, feed our, create this, keep this beautiful instrument that we have very strong. And if there was if you could share a little small nugget of a daily voice practice that might have a bigger impact, that people could start to integrate into their daily lives, what would that be? If somebody had no experience singing whatsoever, but they're like, you know what, I'm ready, Jennifer, I'm going to get connected again with my voice. I remember as a kid it was so beautiful and I haven't dared, but I'm ready. Where should they start?
Well, I think you alluded to this earlier, Cara. I think that communal singing is magical. I think it's just magical. So the one thing I'd suggest, and I often do suggest, even to my professional singers, by the way, is to join a community chorus, to join a group of men and women, whether it's a big chorus or an a cappella group or just a group of neighbors that get together and just sing in community and communion with others. But specifically to a daily practice, I think for people who are returning or starting, I think putting on your favorite songs and turning up the volume and singing with abandon and not listening to yourself is so key. To really focus as much, if not more, on the feeling of your voice moving through your body and into the space, as much as one might be tempted to listen to, do I sound good? Does it sound okay? Just to be using it frequently, daily, to pay attention to deep breathing, to really allow your breath to help engage relaxation, and to sing, to just find things that inspire you to want to open up your mouth and your soul and just sing.
Yeah, beautiful. So you do know that that expression is so important, because that's your whole basically life, is supporting others and also caring for yourself to be a fully expressive human being. We have, I believe in America, over 50% of people struggling with depression. You've done a lot of studies. I know that you've went to the university. I believe you did your master's then in studying psychology. What is your take? Do you think expression is the opposite of depression? I mean, I know people talk about the chemical situation of depression, but we know also as vocal coaches and singers that the chemicals also, the endorphins and everything, get boosted in your system. The happy hormones are going wild when we start singing. So do you think that we could heal a lot if we went into the place of expression?
I do, and I love that distinction, the juxtaposing of depression against expression. I really love that. I do. I think that vocal expression and communal expression are really important. If I can just speak to something you mentioned a moment ago about the high and increasing rates of depression in the United States and I believe beyond. of course, I never want to paint anything with a broad brush, so this is a generalization. But I personally think, and I write about this in Learning to Sing specifically, that in addition to the lack of being connected to our true selves and our true expression, and having the courage and vulnerability to be present in the world and to share ourselves with others, I think a big component to most depression, not all, most depression is, with language and with the empowering of the intellect and with the empowerment of identities that we've created for ourselves through language and labels, we tend, instead of seeing language and labels and the like as tools, instead of seeing them as tools, we tend to believe that they are really who we are. I think we have crafted for ourselves, all of us, by virtue of being human beings in this moment in time, we craft for ourselves identities: man, woman, boy, girl, singer, intelligent, beautiful, pick your words. And we hold to them. We hold to the labels, and we hold to the stories that we have about what has happened in life. And we become further removed from what is happening in this moment. And I have personally found, personally and professionally, that there's a direct correlation, again, not always, but there seems to be a direct correlation in my experience between the degree to which we're present and contentedness and joy, and similarly, the degree to which we're trapped in stories and justifications and labels and depression, among other types of unhappiness.
Well, that's very powerful what you're saying, Jennifer, because I think, I've seen it with my own inner work, or I think everybody has, been on the journey. We have some time to self-reflect. And also when I'm coaching, it's amazing the self-sabotage or the judgment that might come up from wonderful clients, highly successful people, and then they do have an identity or words, and they're slumbering, and suddenly you'll hear them saying, I'll never do this, or I'm not enough, or, nobody will ever listen to me anyway. And sometimes they're even highly successful people on one level, but we have this self-talk, and that's also, it is voice work, just like, singing songs of great composers, it's a type of singing. Improvisation is singing. There's many different layers of voice work, but the one place that I always think that we can start, and it's not easy, is to really become mindful of the voices that we are identifying with and that we are feeding our bodies every day, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's phenomenal. So, so tell me, if you had, which I'm sure you do, if you had a little golden nugget to give our listening audience of what it means not only to have a voice, but to use it, what would that be?
Well, I think my instinct when you said that, the first thought that came to my mind is that the answer is inherent in your question, meaning that when we move from the notion that we have a voice to the notion that we are a voice, we release the shackles of language and possession, and we move into a languageless place of being expression. I think Mary Oliver is one of my favorite poets, and I think there's nothing that we can't sing or say or be, because we're no longer encumbered by, to your previous statement, the thoughts, the stories, the judgments, the what ifs, the I'm not good enough. When we shirk all of that, when we surrender all of that and just step into being a voice, being expression, there's no limit. There's no limit to what we can do and say and sing.
There is no limit, because presence is the greatest present, and we are vibrational, vibrant beings. Jennifer, your work can be found at findingyourvoice.com. Is that correct? Is that where people can discover more about you? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I did see you are doing once a month. You are doing a live free Ask Jennifer Anything. I should drop by and think of some good questions via Zoom and Facebook, which is a great opportunity for people to come. Do people have to study one-on-one, or do you have opportunities where they can continue to learn and grow in all different situations?
Yes, if you go to my website, findingyourvoice.com, there's hopefully it's a wonderful playground. You can learn lots of things. There's interviews and videos and recordings. And there's a Work With Me tab that gives you all different options, and then the events and schedule page, which once a month I'm holding different events. I've been doing Zoom master classes, in-person master classes. There's many, many ways that we can work together, and the priority is to do so in whatever way feels most comfortable for you. So please take a visit, come by and say hi. Let me know if you have any questions. Like you, Tara, I'm sure we love this work. It's a gift.
We love this work. It's a gift. Thank you, Jennifer, so much for being with me today at Voice Rising, and continue to do your wonderful work for our world.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.